Welcome to Talaterra, a podcast about freelance environmental educators and topics related to the work that they do. What subject will we explore today? Let's find out. Plant blindness. This phrase refers to the fact that generally people are more familiar with animals than they are with plants, and that generally people can tell you something about animals and very little about plants. Plant blindness is an important subject because it has broad-reaching consequences. The Chicago Botanic Garden, Botanic Gardens Conservation International, and several of their partners launched a one-year project to assess the botanical capacity of the United States. Botanical capacity refers to our ability to understand the many roles that plants play in our lives. It's about the science education and the research that makes our understanding possible. Think beyond native plants and butterflies for a moment. Think food security, climate change, biodiversity, biofuel production, and sustainability. Without the plant science and research to address all these issues, we won't be able to manage them. What would a world without botanical capacity look like? Let me tell you about some of the disturbing findings shared in this report. Some of the gaps in botanical capacity identified include a reduction in botany courses and fewer degree programs at colleges and universities. It also revealed applicants who can't apply for jobs as feral botanists because they can't satisfy the requirement for 24 credit hours in botany. This, in turn, leads to a shortage of botanists at government agencies. Consequences such as this are urgent because the authors of this report predict the retirement of almost half of the U.S. workforce with botanical expertise within 10 years. That time would be now. This report was written in 2009. So what can we as teachers do to bring plants to the forefront? One recommendation by Gordon E. Uno, professor of plant biology at the University of Oklahoma, is to introduce younger audiences to plants through popular literature. Wait. Popular literature? You mean like comic books? You bet. I even have an example. How about a graphic novel about photosynthesis? And a good one, too. In the graphic novel, Understanding Photosynthesis with Max Axiom, super scientist Max Axiom introduces young botanists to the word photosynthesis. He explains how molecules are mixed and formed in the chloroplast of plant cells, explains the role photosynthesis plays in the water cycle, and he explains why plants cannot keep the air clean and the earth healthy all by themselves. Amazingly, he accomplishes all of this in a conversational tone without smothering readers with technical terms. But is everyone suffering from plant blindness? What about all those avid gardeners lining up with their wagons at their favorite plant sales? Gordon Uno points out that the widespread problem of indifference towards plants is not consistent with the current popularity of gardening. He sees gardening's popularity as an opportunity for botanists to put more emphasis on the applied plant sciences and to tap into public interest in topics such as nutrition, where our food comes from, and the environment. All of these topics relate in one way or another to botany. If you're unsure how to explain why people need plants to your audiences, I know of another resource that will help you articulate the value of plants to a wide-ranging audience. The book Why People Need Plants by Carlton Wood and Nicolette Hapgood was published in 2010. What I like about this book is that it's written for a general audience. It goes beyond the simple answers about why plants are important and provides insight that teachers can use in their programs to create emotional and intellectual connections with their audience. It gives teachers everything they need to begin conversations about the crucial connections between plants and topics that are important to our society, like food, shelter, medicine, and fuel. Instead of simply saying, "We need plants for food," the authors provide teachers with a historical backdrop, beginning with how our dependence upon agriculture began 11,000 years ago. They combine data from research studies with historical accounts to describe the botanical sources of food crops and nutrients and popular drinks such as tea, coffee, cocoa, and cola. They also make the excellent point that the dairy products we so enjoy are derived from animals dependent upon plants, reinforcing the role plants play at all levels of the food chain. Instead of simply saying we need plants for wood to build homes, the authors help teachers explain the properties plants possess that makes them valuable sources of wood and many other products. They explain how the cellular structure of wood makes it a good insulator, why cork's properties makes it a good source for flooring and engine gaskets, and not just plugs for wine bottles. The authors also describe the 4 sources of fiber found in plants, and how fiber has been used to make everything from rope for sailing ships, to fishing line, to flexible paper for money and tea bags. They even explain how plants are used by Mercedes-Benz to make automobile parts. Instead of simply saying, "We need to save plants just in case they have medicinal value," the authors help teachers explain the world's reliance on plants for medicine. They do this by beginning their chapter about medicinal plants with a statistic from the World Health Organization, indicating that 80% of the world's population still relies on plants for their primary source of medicine. They go on to discuss things like the history of medicinal plants, the globalization of Chinese medicine, the discovery of aspirin, the discovery of the cancer drug Taxol, and take a look at ethnopharmacology, which is the study of medicinal plants and the ethnic groups who use them. Instead of simply saying, "We need plants for fuel," the authors help teachers describe the types of fuel that can be derived from plants. They explain why grass is a good source for biofuel, and explain the differences between biodiesel and bioethanol, using easy-to-follow graphics showing how both fuels are produced and used. Authors Carlton Wood and Nicolette Hapgood also discuss how plants help forensic botanists solve crimes. Given the popularity of crime shows, this information gives plants a modern, edgy look, even though the field of forensic botany has existed for many years. Pollen profiles, spore profiles, and growth habits of plants can all provide valuable information when solving crimes. Broken branches in their corrective growth can reveal the route taken by criminals. Pollen and spores can provide unique snapshots of an area, and plant DNA can be traced to crime scenes. Inside the book, Why People Need Plants, teachers will also find interesting chapters about micropropagation, genetically modified plants, human impacts on the planet, plant conservation, and what the future of plants looks like in light of the need to feed a growing human population. Citing stories taken from current news headlines, Why People Need Plants is a valuable resource and will provide a comprehensive look at the relationship humans have with plants. How do you interpret plants in your programs? Click on the link in the show notes to share what you do. A montage of recorded responses will be shared next week. To view information about the books mentioned in this episode, as well as other resources about plant blindness, visit the show notes. And one side note. This podcast is not only about the wonderful work of independent educators, it is also about the subjects that are of interest to them and relevant to the work that they do. What topics would you like to learn about? Do you have guest suggestions? From whom would you like to learn? Please share your thoughts. You can contact me through the website. And one more thing. I'm experimenting with the format of this podcast. My current experiment is to use a different type of theme music like the one I used today. What do you think? Thank you for your time today. This is Tania Marien.